Meet The Lot, native token of Lukki Exchange and the most potential tool for investing this year. Trade now on P2B, B2B and Lukki.io.
Welcome everyone. I'm going to talk about Bitcoin. The node is SV, but we're talking about Bitcoin. It hasn't changed. It goes back to the original. And over the years, many people have tried to change it. And I'll give you a reason why. Because it's immutable. The thing people don't want is something that is legal. All these things that we're seeing now, all of the current changes of side chains and Lightning and whatever else, there's one reason: they're not immutable. Here's the problem: FSMA. Anyone know what FSMA is? It's called law. Law applies to the blockchain. Trust me, it applies completely. It is the ultimate system for law, because unlike these scams in the 90s, nothing gets deleted. It's perfect that way. It's an evidence trail that lasts eternity. So 20 years down the track, you can come back and still prosecute someone. And that's the great thing with it. That's why it's actually going to be liked by government. That's why, unlike all the problems that we saw with Xiaomi and eCash that failed, not because it's central, because it was anonymous. Xiaomi and eCash was truly anonymous. That's why the Americans cracked down on it. That's why people went to jail. That's why we don't have Xiaomi and eCash now. Very simple. You have, under FSMA, a requirement for an immutable worm, or write once, read many, drive. Every single transaction you ever transact, by law, has to be recorded. If it's not, and you're a trader, an exchange, CEO of a public company, it's jail. FSMA resulted in one company in the US getting a $14 million fine and a number of other things last year. So when you have Lightning and you're a money handler node, enjoy bending over and letting the feds have their fun, because that's what's going to those people trying this. So anyway, we're going to talk about storing data immutably. Now, everyone goes, oh, but it's a public blockchain. So what? That's what cryptography does. We can actually encrypt data. Right now, we have public internet. Years ago, we had intranets. We had Banyan, IPX, etc. All these different competing protocols. And guess how many are surviving now? Anyone? One. This is a protocol war. That simple. If anyone ever tells you that they're a blockchain that's going to work with other people, they're lying. No one does. ICOs don't work the same. It's very simple. The security model is one survives or none survive. Full stop. It's binary. The end. Now, lots of problems have happened in this space. I mean, I've been around forever. I've had arguments with Hal Finney back in 2010, before he disappeared, before I did, whatever else. And the biggest problem that actually happened back then was allowing these things not to be fixed, not to actually fight and ensure that things happen the way they were, to allow a group of people who want to ensure that Silk Road can survive. Tell you what, Silk Road can't survive. I've started publishing again. I've got 13 papers accepted this month in academic conferences. You're going to soon figure out what I've been doing. We've got our patent attorneys there, and they've been doing all this stuff, and we are going to bring the environment that is going to make one universal system. Not so that you can go out on a scam exchange and pump a coin. That is the exact opposite of what blockchain is designed for. In the 90s, for those old enough, you should remember that there was web IPO. There were web stock companies where you would sign up on a web page and they would give you stock. One of the reasons Arthur Andersen also fought a whole lot of things, and no one remembers them anymore, do they? That big 5 company, now 4, disappeared because of deleting records. Deleting records can't happen on a blockchain. That's why it's powerful, because it's honest. And we can encrypt data and keep it. And on-chain scaling works. Why? Not just Moore's law, but networks. Over time, we have exponential growth. Exponential is something that is really difficult for most people to understand. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter that you don't understand the magic math that make exponential work. Everything gets faster. Moore's law is not ending, and networks are not getting slower. By the next few years, you're going to see faster and faster fibers. Fiber technology has got to the point where the entire internet can be put down one strand. One multi-mode fiber can actually do nearly a zettabyte now. And you can put hundreds of these in a cable. Basically, we have more network bandwidth than we know what to do with. And we're growing. And it's getting better. So, the concept is very simple. We have a number of competing systems that act to secure everything. Bitcoin, the idea of peer-to-peer is not new. Peer-to-peer means Alice and Bob transact. That's it. That's the secret. Now that actually goes back, and Blind Shawmy and eCash did this in the early 90s. Actually goes back to the 80s when he first did it. And one of the problems, of course, was too many people like Hell and now the others want something anonymous. Unfortunately, Hell's gone, but listening to him was probably a big mistake. But we can't have anonymous. We want private. Private means no one knows what you're doing unless there's a problem. It's traceable. The police can't go and raid you for everything. There's so much data out there, it is not funny, and it's growing. Facebook alone has 600 petabytes worth of data now. So it's not going away, and they're not going to find things easy. But it'll allow you to put all that on the blockchain. So we're now starting to get our patents filed and public. And now you can start seeing what I've been doing for the last few years. Things like graph-based systems, DFAs. Yes, Bitcoin is Turing complete, and whether you like it or not, I've got peer-reviewed papers proving it coming out. How is really the issue. It's very simple. At the end of the day, you have unrolled loops. Anyone who's ever run a HPC, a high processing compute unit, will realize that each GPU unrolls code. Compilers do that now. Then you run them in parallel. You can pay miners to do this, and we're talking to teams at SBI and other things about actually doing that. We can actually have people paid per compute cycle. Not ads, not this bullshit internet model where people sell your privacy so that you get access. Real pay for use, which would cost most people for a whole Google service probably 50 cents to a couple dollars per year on something like that. We want everyone able to trade commodities, but honestly, within the regulations, making sure that people are protected. Right now, this whole idea, I saw someone talking about, we have a decentralized exchange. Our company runs a decentralized exchange. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Honestly, our company runs a decentralized exchange. Duh. A single company is not decentralized. You cannot be a decentralized blah. You are not decentralized. The fun thing no one gets is there is law. We have this thing called a common partnership. Not a limited liability partnership, but a common partnership. So what everyone's going is, we're decentralized. That just means you're liable. Say there's 100 people in your thing and one of them commits fraud. All 100 of you are liable. Yippee! Decentralize that. That's what they're asking for. So functionality. What we're doing is You will then get wallets that are application specific. Access transactions, access everything you need to do, whether it's the equivalent of a web page, whether it's computation, whether it's a game, I don't really care. And what you've seen with op-return opening up is 1% of 1% of 1% of 1%, and I can keep doing that for about a week of what's about to come. So, EDI, this has been one I've been doing for a while. Anyone know the most common banking application for EDI? It's called Swift. Sorry, Swift, I've filed patents before you. Have a nice life. So, EDI is a $14 trillion industry. It basically is how Toyota survives. It is how most businesses in the world survive. We can do it for about 0.3% of the company transaction costs using Bitcoin. So, no, I'm not going to tell you to go and buy a scam coin and flip and hoodle and all this bullshit. Quite frankly, what I want is companies using data, people using data, people using the blockchain. Not we're going to trade and run our little scam coin. Everyone doing that, go to fucking hell. You're the reason blockchain exists, to get rid of you. So, EDI and the blockchain, traditional architecture, we have it here. It's horrible. I remember when I was working at Staple, when I was in the military, whatever else, we did this stuff. What we're going to do is look at how big this market is. It's huge. And then we're going to streamline processes for large organizations. That's why we need big blocks, because we're going to sell data as a commodity. I don't really care about exchanges for one reason. Walmart will pay to store data. Tesco will pay to store data. 50,000 banks globally will pay to store data. And all of them, by law, require an immutable data source. Right now, they have worm technology. They have optical drives. It's slow, it's horrible, it's expensive. Bitcoin solves it. That's use. Exchanges are casinos, they're not use. We want markets. Markets are using something. Markets involve end users, buying and selling commodities. And here's the thing no one seems to get. There are two types of money in human history. Two. One, fiat. Everyone knows what fiat is? Yeah, that's that thing that government makes us pay tax in. Two, commodity money. Bitcoin is a commodity ledger. The end. Commodities have value. So, goal of Bitcoin. We have one way to be cash, and that is to be a commodity. If you're not a commodity, you're nothing. You can either be legal tender because the government says you are legal tender, in which case they can decide whatever the hell they want every week. They can print another $1 trillion. Thank you, US. That's the reality of how it works. But if you have a commodity, that's where markets come into play. Markets buy and sell goods and services. They don't have anything to do with speculators. We've got this idea that Wall Street have sold us, that markets are a whole lot of really fast traders flipping things around and ripping off pension funds. They're not. Sorry. Peer-to-peer web payments. Alice, Bob, I want to pay you. The problem has always been simple for peer-to-peer. The problem is double spending. Double spending is solved by having competitive miners. That's it. Miners compete to solve a problem. Miners are competitive. And there can only ever be one blockchain at scale. I said this many times, one or nothing. Everything fails but one. So you can create tokens, you can do other things, but only one blockchain is ever going to survive. So we're going to enable web payments. Buyer, seller. You need a record by law. I don't care what people say. Right now they say, oh, but cash. Cash requires you have a record. When you go to the till, they print out invoices. If you go to even a dry cleaner or cash industry, they get audited so heavily right now because it's so easy to try and get around cash. But what they now do is they use analytics. I know, I helped develop some of these things. I wrote the Benford Law module for R and a few other things. Not that most people know that, but it's an accounting test to look for fraud. That's the sort of code I used to do. I used to work for accounting firms years ago, as well as other things. And blockchain creates a way of not having fraud. So we want to time access. We want other people to get in there and be able to use our service and do it as we want. Create smart contracts. Create digital ownership. Allow people to do everything as packet by packet exchange of anything we want. So, instant transactions. I'm sorry, 10 minutes is settlement time. Right now, settlement time is 2 days on, say, the CME, the BIS, whatever else. 2 days. We have 10 minutes. This idea that blocks being faster, that doesn't actually matter. The actual time in Bitcoin is under 2 seconds right now. And as miners get bigger, it's faster. At scale, Bitcoin would be probably 80 milliseconds, and that's your clearance. And it's a very simple way of doing things. You put back what was there in the first place. IP to IP was originally in Bitcoin. What do? I send a transaction to the merchant saying this is what I want. The merchant sends me a template. I put in the transaction I want. I send it back to the merchant. The merchant broadcasts it. That's really hard, isn't it? That's what Bitcoin was there to do. And it allowed instantaneous transactions, allowing you to have an invoice stored securely, immutably on chain. What we call patent number 42 that has been granted is a Diffie-Hellman exchange mechanism where we can now have a joint key. So the merchant and the buyer can securely lock away and encrypt data such that other people, such as the tax office, can instantly audit. No more having to worry about audits. Just done. Small business would love that. At the same time, you cannot lose records. If you lose records, you're in trouble. That simple. If you're a public company and you lose records, the CEO goes to jail now. They're the new laws. I'm sure public companies in the US don't want to go to jail. Starbucks. If Starbucks lose records, the CEO can go to jail. That's why they care about their IT systems and why they don't do things like, if there's an outage, allowing people to still trade, because they can't, but they can with Bitcoin. So, smart card. Some of the other things we've been doing. 192, we've just been over here arguing with the patent office to get that one through. So lots of hard work from patent attorneys and all the rest. That enables a secure way of having a hierarchical wallet, not the crap that is Bit32, but one that is an immutable index that is completely private and encrypts things like records, so that we can actually save invoices, data, transaction information, and still link it to a key that is never used. We now are going to have that as a fast, reliable system, including backups. Some of the technologies, including thresholding and whatever else that we have been creating, means that an exchange doing this would not ever have a Mt. Gox. Very simple. You can actually have a shared key where it appears just to be a standard type 1 Bitcoin address, and yet it's not. We have a number of other things. There is a couple new forms of crypto that will be coming out in the next year, which allow indexing. So we have a homomorphically indexed web search encryption algorithm, and I'm sorry Gentry et al., and I'm sorry IBM, works. Smart, we want this. We want people actually doing this stuff. So, file storage solutions. We've seen a few. People put things in op return. Boring. It's nice. Jimmy's excited. I'm not. Because this is the tip. I don't want to see a couple little things stuck there. I want to see files that can actually be transmitted individually on a timed basis. And using script, we can do this. That's one of the things MetaNet's going to enable. You'll be able to sell access to file streams online. Not the file, movies. We could actually put Netflix on the blockchain. How's that one? We can actually have you stream movies paid as you watch them. If you don't like it, you stop paying. I don't know about you, but I've watched so many movies lately that are total trash. You get in, the previews look great, then you watch the movie, 10 minutes in you go, this is horrible. Imagine incentivizing filmmakers not to give you a 5-minute preview that looks good, but to have a movie that you're going to stop watching if it's crap. Blockchain will do that for you. Bitcoin will enable that for us. We're going to enable you to have different key options and allowing with deterministic keys any file. So we have Diffie-Hellman groups for not just two parties. One of the little inventions I've come up with is a way to do it to multi-parties. And ECH for two. Sorry, unlimited. And it's secure. So we want IP on the blockchain. That's going to be anything, whether we're talking about copyright files, access to books, read by byte. You can actually have a transparent, simple, private, immutable, and cost-effective method of doing this. So, that enables us to decide what we want to pay for, how we're going to pay for it, and enable watermarking so that it's not going to be cost-effective for anyone to try and steal and cheat and whatever else. And if they do, we have an immutable record of who's stolen. People ask, what if people put illegal files on the blockchain? You've signed a confession. When you put something on, you've signed a confession. I don't think people actually realize what that means. It is now writing with a signature. You actually go onto the blockchain, you put in a legal file, too bad. So one of the other things I've got coming out this year in one of the academic conferences is how every IP address on any blockchain can ever be monitored, including through Tor. Have a nice day. I used to do government work and whatever else. I don't like illegal activity. I like honesty. Bitcoin is not anonymous because it's meant to be honest. I don't want it so that people can do ICO scams. I don't want any of that stuff. I will help any government quite happily to take that shit down because I want average people using it. I want everyone in this world to be able to have better access to data, to come out of any country, the middle of somewhere like Nigeria or Sierra Leone, India, and access files, access information, and access data. So basically, I'm not going to give you the normal scam. I don't give a shit if you like it or not. We're just going to do one thing. We're going to give solutions to business.